Interesting. Hello, hello everyone. So I'm just getting myself situated here. All right. Let's see how. All right. So I want to fix something very quickly here. For some reason, this is. Oh, interesting. Am I sideways? I'm really not trying to. Okay. Interesting. So if you are here on Instagram Live, just let me know. I'm sideways. Okay, cool. No idea how to fix that. Let's see. Upside down. How peculiar. Is this better? Huh. Well, good. Okay, awesome. That looks sideways on my end. So I'm just going to ignore it. So, perfect? Okay, cool. I'm going to stop messing with it. I appreciate you. All right, so cool. It's like sideways on, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just going to ride the wave. I trust you. Thanks, Red, for your help. So, welcome. My name is Vanessa, aka Vegan Ness, and today I'm going to Bob Ross it up with you guys and do some happy little trees. So I'm just going to show you guys what I am working with today as my coffee spills. So I have my trusty cups of water. I also have my paint palette. So one of my favorite things to do, I use the same palette over and over again. And acrylic paint dries kind of the way glue would dry, or it's kind of plasticky. So instead of using various different plates, this is very earth friendly, where I'm just using the same palette. I'm just cleaning up this outer area here in the middle for mixing. I've got the colors that I'm going to use today. So I have primary colors starting with yellow and red. And we're going to use most of these colors alone or with other colors to mix. So white as well. And again, welcome. My name is Vanessa, aka Vegan Ness. So I normally just do this on Instagram Live. However, I'm trying to double up with Facebook here. So being my normal extra self and black. And if anyone knows how to save an Instagram video that's like longer than 2 minutes where it saves to your camera roll, hit your girl up. And brushes, it doesn't matter what kind of brushes you use. I am going to, I'm going to use these long-handed brushes. I have one that's kind of round on the end, so I can use this one, and then some more square or kind of almond-shaped brushes. So this is what I'm working with. Doesn't need to be super fancy. But it does need to be something that you are comfortable with. I believe this is a 9x12 canvas. I am going to paint something kind of inspired by Bob Ross. So it's going to be like a nice sky with a little water area and our happy little trees. So, hello. So what I want to do is first mix up some colors, and then I'm going to add them. So I'm just going to mix up a lighter blue color by mixing some blue with a little bit of white for my sky background. And I'm going to cover about like 1/2 to 3/4 of my canvas with this. So if you have acrylic paint with you, just know that a little bit goes a long way. And if you're using any other kind of medium, go for it. This is not like specific to acrylic. It's just what I use because it dries quickly, enough in between layers. And you can really manipulate it in a way that I think it's very fun, with enough challenge for new painters and also experienced painters as well. So I dipped the brush in the water just a little bit. And what I want to do in this open area here, if you don't have a palette like this, that's okay. Grab a plate. I normally suggest don't use paper plates. It will just kind of soak up the paint. So I have my scoop of blue. You can wash the brush in between if you're dipping into different colors, or you can just, there we go, take a little white. So it's like a 2-to-1 ratio of blue to white, and acrylic paint, especially the one I'm using here, that I got at Michael's, you know, nothing fancy. I'm living on a budget, just like most of us here. So I got these from Michael's. I know you can get it from Sam's Club as well, and Target, price, but if you can find stuff, like even if it's from the dollar store, like it doesn't matter. Your Christmas kit that you got from like a year or two ago, you know, put some use to it. So because this is creamier, thicker acrylic paint, I am going to dip my brush, just like so, bam bam, in the water just to thin out that color a bit, because a little bit of acrylic paint goes a long way. And I am going to use sweeping motions from left to right. They don't need to be perfectly straight lines. And what I'm going to do is add some blue streaks, about halfway, again, halfway to 3/4 of the way down on my canvas. And I don't want a solid layer. I'm actually putting it in kind of patchy on purpose. I love this blue. This is primary blue. And not all blues are equal, not all reds are equal, not all yellows are equal. So if you have a little variation in your colors, you know, it's fine. If you decide you want purple skies instead, it's your painting. Do what you want, boo. So I have streaks, you know, kind of haphazard horizontal brush strokes, lightly brushing. And you can see the threading of the canvas in some areas. That just indicates that there's not as much paint in those areas, and I'm doing this on purpose so that I can fill in with white paint to kind of get you that really nice blended sky look. And the only thing, it's kind of like a double-edged sword with acrylic paint. I'm occasionally dipping in my water cup. I'll put it here so you guys can see. Dipping in my water cup and then watering down some more of my color. Is that acrylic paint dries quickly. Therefore, I am, one, able to paint over it if I'm impatient and, you know, want to paint over it right away. That works. But if you want to blend colors together, it does require the two colors or whatever number of colors you are mixing to be wet simultaneously. So what I'm doing is I've got blue paint. I'm going to dip into white paint just a little bit. And I'm going to streak that in and then sweep that in those empty areas. Okay. So I'm kind of patching these in together. Here's a little white that I'm taking from my palette and just adding it straight to the canvas. To get a nice blend, or like a nice sky blend, you can go all the way across, or I'm doing this kind of wrist rotation, sweeping motion left to right. You can make it in an X motion. It's going to give your sky a different look or texture. And the background of the sky is entirely up to you. So the patches of white I am adding in, again, are just to give it a little extra oomph. I normally prefer texture in my pictures, even if it's not super realistic. I think texture gives it a nice 3D feel. So Don't feel like you have to get super smooth edges. If you, again, dip a little in the color and notice it's like a French manicure or think like nail polish, you only want to dip a little bit of that paint or have a little bit of that paint on the brush. If you do add too much paint, one, you're going to get these lumpy layers, and acrylic paint does dry like that if you leave it like that. Or two, it's just going to take forever to dry, and we ain't got time for that. Or the patience, let's be real. All right, so I have this blue-white mixture here. If you would like more prominent clouds, I think I've created kind of like that wispy cloud feel. If you want more prominent clouds, allow an area to dry, and then you can add some more blending to it. So I'm not going to create cloud shapes. I'm just creating very wispy cloud textures. You can even dip back into the blue, and again, that little bit or just streaking it on and then blending it gently works. I feel like this is sufficient texture without really stressing myself on getting too many fine details in the painting. And we don't want to be stressed while we're painting. Not cool. So I have this background here. If you are attempting to blend the colors, whatever colors you've chosen together, and you decide that it's really not mixing and it's like you're just adding a layer on top, that does mean that it is dried already. And you can tell when it's dry if you're kind of like tilting it in the light. Like wet acrylic paint to me looks like clear lip gloss shiny. Like if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Okay, and should you come across that issue, just dip back into the water and that can revive the paint for you, or at least kind of saturate that area in just a little bit of moisture so you can sweep some more on there. So what I want to do, again, is I'm creating a nice background that will be a backdrop for my happy little trees that I'm going to be adding, and I will show you guys how to do different kinds of trees. Some Bob Ross style, some just mild, janky little way, and just various styles, so you guys can incorporate this however you'd like. For this lower area, I will add more blue for like a little lake or a pond. But what I want to do first is wash off this brush, and I'm actually going to mix like a nice dark teal color. You can use blue or whatever you like, but this teal color will be for that water area. I do still have blue left over. If you mix blue and green together, it's going to give you that teal. Bam. So I don't have green paint, but what I will do is create a green by mixing a little yellow and blue. If you would like it more along the pastel side, what I suggest is taking a small amount of white and adding it in. All right, if you'd like a more spring green kind of a color, and then add more yellow in it. So I've got this kind of pastel green here. I'm going to mix it with my blue color to create this nice teal. Oh yeah. Okay. And this looks kind of like lake water, murky-ish. Now, I don't want it super bright, so I am adding a little blue. And if you do want to ever darken a color, you can use, for example, for the teal, I can use a little blue to make it darker, or I can use a little bit of black, but it's really like a dot of it just on the end of the brush. All right, so this is going to be kind of murky-ish lake water, but you know, realistic. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just kind of repeat the process down here. I'm going to make kind of like a half circle or an oval shape with this color. All right, so I've taken that blue-green mix with my tiny dot of black mixed in, and in a very messy, not well-defined oval, half circle kind of a business here. I'm going to be going again with that kind of left to right sweeping motion. What I'm going to do is I want to reflect the different colors that I might see in the water. So notice again, I'm not creating a specific shape. I said half circle / oval-ish, rectangle-ish, seems more like, but you get it. I'm going to paint around this perimeter. So don't worry if it's not perfect, like it really doesn't matter. All right, hello. All these people joining, awesome. Good to see you guys, even though I'm not really seeing you, you know what I mean? Okay, so corny. So one of my favorite things about looking onto any body of water is the variety of color that you see, especially when the sun's shining down on it. So in this body of water, I'm going to use the same brush and I'm going to add a little white into it. So again, just a little bit of white paint here on the end of my brush. All right, just a little bit, okay? Don't be too crazy. And I'm going to use whatever flatter side of the brush, blade side, if you want to call it that, and use really light pressure to add some streaks of white. And before I mix it in, I'm going to use the same brush without washing it, and I'm going to dip into the edge of my yellow because I don't want to dirty all that color up with this mix here. Same small amount of yellow. I'm going to streak that in and then return my brush to its wider side so that I can go back and forth along that entire area to create, yes, some texture in there. You can think of, I'm doing it again, the sunlight coming onto the water. If you like streaks that really pop out, I'm just repeating the process, by the way. Little yellow, little white. Sometimes I'll even dip both colors onto the brush and just let it mix as it brushes along. So I am just sweeping it here, not in a perfect kind of line downward, but just zigzag. You know, when the light's reflecting on the water, it's not all in a straight line. That's the beauty of it, right? You see the waves, you see the movement. So I'm adding these streaks on here. Again, to blend it, both colors do need to be wet. You can sweep lightly. The more you brush into any specific area, the more it's going to blend all of the colors together. If you really like this kind of variation with the color, then what I suggest doing is just sweeping lightly, maybe 1 or 2 times over it, going back into the green. Maybe you think you added too much of that lighter color. Chop in some of that darker color back in and just sweep over it just lightly. Alright, bam. So this is, I love painting water and I love blending colors. The first time I blended colors, guys, let me tell you, I was like, I'm not an artist. I can't do this. And I was lying to myself, so don't put pressure on yourself if all of a sudden you're fancying painting and you don't really have a lot of experience outside of school or ever, you know. Don't worry about it. Just have fun with it. Bob Ross is on Netflix. Check him out. All right, so I think I need to leave this alone. If I keep adding paint, let's just check. Sometimes you gotta like step away from it so you can check it. Check it. All right. Well, I guess it's water, so if it's like crooked, it doesn't matter. I did it on purpose. So I have my blended sky, again, the light blue mixture and that white streaked in, very small amounts at a time. Again, think of it as nail polish. You know, you can add a coat, but if you put too much on that first coat, it's not going to look so cute. So add little by little. And if it does begin to dry as you're mixing, add a little more paint to that area, or you can just dip your brush in your water cup and add a little bit moisture back into that. So this is my blended sky. This is going to be like a little pond area. I'm using Bob Ross. And as a inspiration because it wouldn't. He's so sweet. That man was a saint. So what I'm going to do is still leave this area open. I'm going to create a horizon here of different kinds of trees for the background. And then we'll add some more trees here up front so you really get that depth. The trees here in the further area of my painting along the horizon are going to be smaller because they're further away. And then these trees that I will be adding later are going to be a little larger. So for this, I like to mix maybe like 2 to 3 different colors for the trees. Back to my teal, I am going to add some black to it to get a darker green color here. Okay, adding a little more yellow to make it, again, more spring green. Now it's looking olive. Matchy, matchy. All right, I love olive green. Love mustard yellow. Just food colors. I dig it. So here's my olive kind of ish green color. And I want another color to kind of add some variety. You don't want all your colors to look the same. You can, but again, variety is nice. So I'm going to do it with colors. So I mixed a dark green here, olive green. Let's see, boom, boom, boom. What else we gonna do? We're gonna do, by grabbing a little yellow, and let's wash off the brush quickly, because my yellow is basically turning olive green. What am I doing? So again, my name's Vanessa. If you guys already know me, awesome. Thank you for joining. If you don't really know me, but you're watching, thank you again. So I've been calling myself Vegan-ness because I went vegan, 4 or 5 years ago? Okay, I can't remember, but I'm alive and I'm doing great. So I have yellow here. Let's say I'm gonna make this yellow, red, and I'm going to add a little blue to the mix. So I get more of a burgundy color here. I'm gonna add a little tiny black to it. All right, so these are gonna be my colors, this burgundy and this olive green here. So, ooh, I bet you used to read Goosebumps. You know what? There's gonna be a monster. My brother said that. I love you, Paul. There's gonna be a green monster hand coming out behind one of these trees. So, first tree that I'm gonna do is kind of that super Bob Rossy tree that I know everyone loves. So what I'm going to begin with is the blade side of my brush, and I'm going to use the burgundy color since it's already on there. And what I'm going to do is add in an uneven manner, okay? So I love symmetry, but when it comes to nature, it's not always symmetrical. So I am making dotted lines or dash lines, if you will, just by using that blade end of the brush and just bam, bam, bam down here. All right, and I said they were going to be smaller than the ones here in front, but you know what, maybe I'll make them kind of big. Maybe you'll have a couple guys next to each other. All right, the trees look like they're social distancing. All right, so the way you can do some of these Bob Ross trees, I want to show you guys. I've started off with the trunks of the trees. And what I'm going to do is turn the brush blade side and push it or tap it gently against the canvas. So what I'm doing is creating lines along, and I leave them spaced out, but if you don't want a Charlie Brown looking tree, what you do is just fill in with more horizontal lines in between. Okay, there may be a little uneven, and what I'll do is just kind of add some fluff closer to the trunk in between my lines. If you allow some of that sky to pop through from behind it, that's cool. They do that in real life, like for real. So, whoops. There we go. So this is kind of a Christmassy tree kind of a feel. Another way to do it is just by taking your brush down that trunk line, leaving a little space along the top of each because I want it to be nice and pointy. If you start right at the top of the trunk, it's going to be a little chunky, and that's okay. Big trees are nice to sit under and read. So I'm going to zigzag my way down, and my lines are going to get longer and longer the closer I get to the ground. And to even out, again, what I want to do close to the trunk or right on top of it is add some more tree fluff. Another way to create trees is just by kind of going more with a more round motion. I'm actually going to switch up brushes for this. Boop-a-doo-doo. Still a rectangular brush, but I want to switch colors. I'm adding some olive green to a clean brush. Now for this trunk, what I may do is I may decide, again with that same tapping motion, is just kind of, I'm working in like I'll start off with a circular shape, but unless you have been like trimming your trees in a specific way, what I want to do is have some parts of the tree that I'm tapping come outward. So I don't want a perfect fluff. I like the unevenness. It is more organic in my personal, preference here. So I'm creating a nice tree fluff, and if you notice, again, with the threading, or that you can see the background behind your tree, that's okay. If you guys have ever really looked at trees, you should appreciate them, love them, hug them, tell them they're amazing, and breathe in that good air. Whew, all right, I got excited. Again, you're allowed to let the background peek through, gives it a nice kind of texture there. If you want to give your tree a little variety, again, using a brush without cleaning it and then kind of pop in a little yellow on there is what I've chosen. You can create a nice variety of color by adding just that little dip of yellow, and then I'm just going to add it around different areas of my tree. There we go. And I know this is a big fluffy tree and a little skinny trunk. Don't worry, we're going to cover it up. Again, I'm just adding some along that horizon line. So I'm going to take some more of this olive color now and go back into that tree mode here, that kind of Bob Rossi tree. So again, if you missed it, it's going to be that stem, or excuse me, trunk, and then adding those messy rows by tapping gently. The harder you tap, the fluffier that branch or row is going to be. I'm making my lines longer as I go down, or as they get closer towards the ground. And then so my tree actually looks alive, closer to or right on top of that trunk I painted. I'm going to add some fluff. So since this is a lighter color on top of the trunk, you can see that I've got some variety here of where the tree is poking out and the branches, but it's nice and fluffy in the middle. All right, I'm gonna make, there we go back to that burgundy color, and I'm gonna add a tree here. All right, so again, I'm just repeating that same process, and the best way to progress your tree making skills is to just make a bunch of them. Honestly, that's the way to do it. If you ain't got the time, you can't do the stuff. best trying to think of something in a rhyme with it, but it didn't work. Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, hey! Long time no see, Jordan. What's up? Down with the trunk? I mean the funk. Yes, Eric. Awesome. Alright, so thanks for joining, guys. I have added a different color because this burgundy is not super my jam. Alright, and it's okay if you paint a tree that's in front of another tree. I added a bunch of paint, so that happened. So now he's just going to be like a little filler in the background there. Okay, so I am on my palette just mixing a little more green. Thank you guys for all your kind words. I really appreciate it. I don't know why I didn't think of doing this long ago, but you know, everything has its time. Okay, so these last little trunks here, I'm just going to add some foliage. Alright, and I'm just trying to add a little variety of color, adding some more black or yellow here and there to my tree colors. Let's add some red on this one. Alright. And I could have chosen pink or other things. I know it is springtime. It may not feel like it to everyone, but it is spring. But, you know, I really like these deep, earthy tones. Something about it makes me so happy. Okay, gonna thicken that trunk a little bit. So again, we're doing a little less of a realistic kind of a painting here. And what I'm going to do now that I have my trees in the horizon added in, kind of patchy, is I want to begin adding this ground area here. Now, I don't have any just brown paint, but again, I've got my primary colors here, so I can do all the things. So I've got red, yellow, blue. If you mix all three of those colors, you will get brown. You want to lighten it up. You can add a little white or yellow gradually. So I'm going to take a scoop of yellow here on my palette just so you can see. Scoop of blue, scoop of red, mix them up. If it looks more burgundy to you, add a little more blue and a little more yellow. So I've got this brown color here. Awesome, chocolate bar color. And what I'm going to do with this brown is just sweep it here along the bottom area. Again, I am filling it in with those horizontal brush strokes, and I'm going to allow for maybe like a little wavy line here, slightly covering the edge of where my water was, the water's edge. Okay, if you sweep it lightly, maybe, you know, that dirt's just fading into the water there, maybe it's some shadows. And I'm creating, again, just a little ground area with this brown color. If you don't want brown, use bright green. If you have a different color in mind, maybe you're making a field of flowers, go for it. If you're just using black, white, and gray, that works, go for it. And again, I am using acrylic paint, which is a little thick. So if you feel like you want to thin it out and help spread it around, go ahead and add a little dip of water to your brush. I'm just creating some uneven areas here. I want to create kind of a pond look. So as I add paint around, I'm not painting around that teal that I have. I'm kind of covering up those edges there. Alright, and I always forget to paint the sides of these canvases because I always use stretched canvas and ugh. Alright, I always remember when I'm like I'm ready to hang it up on the wall, and then I don't want to hang it up on the wall because that is such a pet peeve of mine. All right. So again, I'm creating just a little pond look here. I will add brighter colors, I promise, guys. And again, as you cover the edge of your blended colors to create that little water area, don't feel like you need to make straight lines. I add little wiggles here and there. Bam. Okay. Yes, and if you're not sure how you feel about it, people do get like hyper focused. Like sometimes I'll even be like this, like you're really bonding with the canvas. But it is very helpful to occasionally lean back. All right, and then yeah. So let me add a little here. It's just a little pond. I don't know where all the animals are. And also, I prefer landscapes and abstract figures and shapes. So don't ever feel like I can't paint things exactly the way they look to my human eye. Don't worry about it. If you would like to create some variety with your ground area, maybe some light and dark areas, take a darker version of what you have or a lighter version. Not necessarily the same color, but if I wanted green, I'm not going to create a darker olive green or a forest green. I'm going to create something else a little brighter. So I'm going to finally use a little bit of a brighter color. I'm going to take some yellow, and I'm going to take just a little blue. Okay, that is a little brighter. White to lighten it up, but yellow to keep it springy. Alright, that looks like baby bombs. Alright, this is cool. So I have a lighter green color here. I'm going to take off some of this excess paint off my brush. I just need a little bit on there. And what I want to do is just to add a little texture to that ground area. If you want something to look kind of like a bush or like fluffy or leafy, you just add a little paint to your brush. Again, not too much, and tap right on there. Now, just a little disclaimer, you guys can see this in real time. My brown ground color hasn't completely dried, so again, if you do have two colors you're using simultaneously, they will blend. Yes. So what I may do is maybe I will add just a few patches of light green here, or lighter green. Maybe you want to create some kind of a little bump, right? Maybe this is a different area. From here you want to separate out your ground sections. You can do it with a little color. I think this needs to be much brighter. There we go. And what I'm doing is I am following along with the angles that I already added in. And I'm doing it very loosely, very lightly. But by adding it on top gently, then what I'm pretty much doing is creating a little area here. Okay. I'm gonna add a nice bright patch of this color here. I don't like this bush, so I'm just gonna blend it in while it's still wet there. Same here, maybe along this bottom edge, you want to add some of that yellowish color, just following along with the curves you've already added to your painting. So don't feel like you need to follow the outline perfectly. I really think if you just are loose with your brush strokes, at least for me personally, I feel like you end up Sometimes with better results, ironically, the less you focus on exactly where it's going, the nicer it can turn out for you. And I'm just going to sweep some of that yellow color along here. All right. I added a little more white, and I'm going just like I'm creating a dotted line, and I'm just kind of dotting along the very top edge of whatever shape I have outlined. So very, very lightly, very lightly. I'm adding tiny bits of white to my color that I had, that yellow or that spring-ish green. And what I do want to be sure of is that I'm leaving the paint near the edge of my brush. So sometimes you will need to find a spot along the edge of your plate or mixing palette or little dip cups to scrape off some of that paint, keep it along that edge there. Okay. I'm going to add some here. And what I think it does is gives it awesome texture on like algae or grass, moss. I don't know. Talk to me, plant people. Talk to me. So, again, thanks for joining, guys. We're doing some trees here inspired by Bob Ross today. And the guy was amazing. You can find him on Netflix. There's some of his work there. So again, I'm just dotting along with just different versions of the same color, lighter or darker. Tapping gently the side of your brush with the top of your brush. You could even, if you want to get down and dirty, use your hands to lightly sweep, like left to right, like you're going to wipe something off or erase it. There we go. Or you can dot, and that'll leave some texture. Okay, let's add a little more up here. I don't know what it is. Once I touch the canvas with my hands, it feels so good. It's like really therapeutic for me. So you guys might enjoy it too if you tried it out. I have no idea. I don't know what you people like. Okay, so again, the whole purpose of this was to create light and dark areas. I am adding lighter colors where I would perhaps like it to be a little lighter. Maybe the sun is hitting it more, coming in through the trees. Maybe that grass is just, you know, popping. I don't know. So, okay, we've got light and dark areas. If you feel like you've added too much of the light color in very, very small amounts, I have cleaned off my brush. I'm going to go back into that brownish color that I used for the ground. My colors are all mixing here, but you know, whatevs. To help redefine an area. For example, I'm looking at this little guy here and this little guy here. I like the dark, the highlights that I added, but if you want to go back in, again, tiny bits of paint, just tapping. Let's make it darker. And don't worry if you can't remix the exact same dark green or brown. This is just like a darker green, not the original brown I had created the ground with, but the idea is to create lights and shadows or darker areas. So that's what I'm doing. And just a tiny bit of black, like a dot on the corner of your brush, is sufficient. And again, try not to sweat it. I'm using a small tapping or light sweeping horizontal kind of a thing here to create a light and dark area. Okay. And I'm just sweeping some of this in, again, very lightly, just along the edge of my brush. You can use your fingers, or you can use the brush in a tapping motion, or very short, very light sweeping motion. And when I say light, I mean like light on the paint and also light on the pressure. Alright, we in this now. Okay. Maybe add some that dark brown here. And these are very loose, again, loose brush strokes to help kind of keep that organic feel without having to like pressure yourself to make everything perfect. Because let me tell you, when I started painting, and when I see a lot of people begin to paint, or I've seen a lot of people on their first time painting, they really want to make everything very realistic, like super true to what you see with your eye, or like very photographic. And the intention is beautiful, but that does take time. So don't ever feel like somebody picked up a brush and made something that was hyper realistic, you know, or looked like something you see every day on the first try, because I can guarantee you that if that happened, they're a prodigy, or that's just a total anomaly of how humans work. So I've got our Bob Rossi trees here, a little pond here that we created by blending some of our colors together, and that ground area, again, by painting over the edges here, so I can have a nice clean perimeter. What I want to do is now, in these open spaces, not in every open space, but I particularly want to paint a tree right here, closer, so it's going to be larger, and then another tree right here, and then maybe some little bushes, just so it doesn't look so empty or sparse. If you'd like an open field, I'm not going to tell you how to paint your painting, but this is how I'm painting mine. So again, thanks guys. Hi, I'm Vanessa. If you don't know me, you know me now. So I would definitely like to contrast these darker colors with some brighter colors. So I am taking my yellow, I'm just re-upping here. A little bit of paint goes a long way, and I give myself maybe like maximum Brussels sprout size of like a dollop of paint. So I'm going to give myself a little more yellow. Nope, that's it. I just used up all the yellow. So I have this springy green kind of a deal going on. I'm going to scoop that up and kind of stick it all in one pile. So still a more kind of lighter olivey, I don't know, inside of a pickle color. And I'm going to redo this nice kind of a style tree, inspo Bob Ross, excellent. And since I have a little space here and this tree is going to be larger because it's closer to us, what I will do is just paint like half the tree. So half of this dude got cut out. So I'm going to add a little stem line. Ooh, that looks like baby barf. I love it. Add a little stem line, trunk line, JK, trees not flowers. All right, to my color. And this is a much brighter color. Add a tiny bit of blue in there, get a little green. All right, I'm scraping off the excess because I don't need too much to begin with. If you feel like your color is see-through, add a little white to it and you will be able to make it creamier, more opaque. However, it will lighten the color and change it. So again, the Bob Ross tree, oh my goodness, is you have that trunk, right? Not a perfect line, I don't care, because I'm going to add leaves over it. What I'm going to do is I am using the brush horizontally, just a little bit of paint at a time, and what I'm doing is just kind of tapping on there. So here's the trunk, leaving the top ½ inch or so empty so I can keep it pointy, and I'm creating these rows of trees here, or branches, excuse me. more green. It's so yellow. All right. Is it true that artists are fickle people? Perhaps. I feel like the ideas just come to me. You know, I don't plan for these ideas. So, am I changing my mind, or did I mean to do that the entire time? Alright. So I'm adding rows of this tree here. You can think of them as branches. They're getting a little longer as I work my way down. And then so it doesn't look so sparse. Hello, hello. Hi, thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are so nice. Thank you. Okay, so I am fluffing up the empty areas in between my branches. I don't want it to look like this tree has had no water. So I am fluffing up just filler branches. Think of it that way. Filler branches, not all the same length, even though they're shorter at the top, longer at the bottom. There's still a variety in between each of these. All right. So this tree, I'm even going to add some along the edge of my canvas. And because I'm using a lighter color against a darker background, you may want to double up on your layers. Think of it again as like nail polish, that first coat. Maybe not as thick as you want or as opaque as you want, but you do need to give it time to dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mix a little bit of a pinkish color. Same brush, and I rarely wash my brush in between. If it's not looking too crazy, you know, I wipe off some of the paint on the paper towel. You can wash in between each color change or color mix, but I kind of like to do this. So I have this pinkish tone here, and what I'm going to do is, let's add some pink bushes. So over here in this empty space, I'm going to create just a little half circle gumdrop shape, misshapen, of course, misshapen, for little bushes. I'm going to add another little bush here. Maybe I'll start the bush directly on that ground area instead of just on that horizon line. And I will just tap on the canvas there. So a lot of this is that tapping motion. Okay. I'm going to add some just straight up red on top of these. Oh yeah. And again, just tapping gently, a little paint at a time. If you're not sure exactly what you're doing, that makes two of us. But allow this to just kind of, I don't know, go with the flow. You know, you don't have to have your painting planned out. Maybe you have a general idea of what you want to paint. Here we go. These are giant flower bush things. Interesting. Okay, cool. Maybe I will add another little bush here in the corner. Seemed a little empty. Again, that pinkish color I mixed with my dirty brush, adding a little just plain old red to it. Okay. And again, the lighter the pressure, I think the better it is for this kind of stuff. Just plain old red right on top, just giving it a little more texture. This red is patchy. I'm not doing a full solid layer on top of red. Just a little tiny bit of red paint on the brush. And then kind of tapping it on there. All right. Now, I'm still giving this time to dry, so what I'm going to opt to do is add one more tree right here along this edge, and I'm going to make it very dark, nearly black, by adding a bunch of black to this burgundy-ish color I had here. Same deal. I'm going to add that kind of dotted stem. And then I'm going to add those rows. I don't want to make my rows too long because I want to see if I can preserve some of the tree behind it. But those, again, were meant to be fillers. So if you lose them, that's a-okay. All right. If you want a scratchier texture, use a minimal amount of paint. And in between your branches to give it a little fluff, again, just add a little paint directly on that trunk line close to it. Alright, so that tree is super dark. If you feel like it's too dark, I still have the same dirty brush here. What I'm doing is on the tops of the branches, adding some yellow, maybe patch it in here and there. And I'm doing it very lightly because I don't want it to fully blend in. But I feel like this tree is very dark and could use a little contrast or a little light. Okay, and again, you can use the brush or your finger. All right. So again, today the focus was trees. There's so many different kinds, but I feel like everyone really digs these Bob Rossi trees. I mean, come on. Like, let's be real. We all love it. So, I'm just creating some texture there for different branches by adding lighter colors, similar to what I did on the ground area. Just on the very edge of my brush. Show you guys again, this color is lighter and tiny bit of that lighter color. I'm going to use my finger maybe to make it look a little less organized or uniform. Here we go. Let's add some along here so it's a little bit more bright against this watercolor. And again, just tap with your finger, tap with the brush, a little paint at a time. There we go. Alright. I'm going to add a little more here. I am almost done with this painting. Alright. Now what I'll do, still working with that light green, same color as this tree here. I want to fill in some space here in between my bushes, my little pink bushes. Some brown paint that got mixed in, but that's just giving me texture, so I'm going to let it happen. Okay. Alright. Just a little on the edge of the brush. And again, if you're adding these colors and you notice they begin to mix, that is simply because, hello, that is simply because the colors are still wet. So definitely give it time to dry should you see that occurring. So hey, thanks for joining, guys. I appreciate all of you so much. Even if you accidentally came into the live thing, it's okay. I'm gonna take it as you were interested. I'll take it. All right. Cool. So the very important thing to note with painting is that you can overdo it. So I'm going to leave this alone here. If there is anything else to add more depth to a painting that you are interested in doing, I suggest, if you feel like you want to make it more opaque or just like a nice thick color, let it dry in between layers. If you would like to create contrasted areas or mounds of dirt, add a lighter color to the top of it. And if you have some texture that you want to add, again, add patches or rows or just little sections of lighter color. I feel like adding lights and darks really does enhance the painting in whatever you're creating. And I'm going to leave it here, guys. If there is anything you are interested in painting or learning how to paint, let me know. Hit me up, message me, text me if you got my number, or check out the website. There is a calendar of all the other sessions that I will be doing. The next one, I believe is coming up in a few days. I believe not this weekend, but in a few days I will be doing something. I will be doing again a sunset session, and super excited, Earth Day. And when Earth Day comes, on Earth Day, I will be reading and painting the Lorax. I am so psyched because that is my favorite Dr. Seuss book. And also, I think Earth Day is very important, and I think with all of the things going on, it would do us, it would bode us well, as Jack Sparrow might say, to just care a little bit more about the planet. So, thanks for joining me today, guys, for this Bob Rossi inspired painting and the happy little trees. I will be painting palm trees on a beach soon, and if you really dig the trees, I will do another tree session, maybe sometime at the end of the month or beginning of May, because it's almost May. Okay, it's totally fine. But anyway, thank you again for joining me, guys. Vanessa, aka Vegan Ness. I hope you guys paint. If you have any questions or any inquiries, hit a girl up. And stay safe. Have a great weekend. Wash your hands. And keep your head up, guys. We're going to make it through this. There's so many things that we have been blessed with technology-wise, so take advantage of it. Check in with your friends and family. Tell them you love them. Tell yourself you love yourself. Don't forget to R&R. And don't forget to add a little art in your life. Okay? Bye, guys. Thank you. Take care.